Okay, so you know that like the guitar case that's like tucked away under a bunch of junk, or that story you started like ages ago but never finished.
No, yeah,
We all have those dreams. You're gonna it's like,
totally.
and today we're diving into a book that's all about dusting those dreams off and seeing if if they still spark something in us. It's called Dream On by Barbara Sher.
It's like, those archaeologists who are always uncovering these like ancient cities.
Right.
Sometimes the coolest stuff they find isn't the gold or whatever, but just the everyday things that show us how people actually lived. And she kind of helps us see our dreams in the same way, like they're these artifacts.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like clues to what we're really passionate about deep down.
So it's less about wishing you were like a rock star,
Yeah.
more about figuring out what that rock star dream, like what it actually means,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Maybe it's not about the fame, but like the need to be creative or connect with people through music. She calls these buried dreams, and they're like these hidden parts of ourselves that we need to uncover.
That makes so much sense. I spent years like beating myself up for not becoming a veterinarian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing. But Dream On made me realize maybe it wasn't about like the animals themselves, It was more about wanting to care for something,
Yeah.
which I actually get to do now, just in a totally different way.
And that's what's so great about it. By digging into those buried dreams, you can figure out those core desires that are driving you. So let's talk about how to actually start this whole digging process. It's all about like approaching it playfully, like a
Yeah.
treasure hunt. No pressure or anything, just curiosity.
Hmm.
What's a dream you remember, like setting aside?
Oh man, learning Italian. Like I used to imagine myself having these like super fluent conversations while eating pasta in Rome. But then, life happened. And now the Duolingo owl just judges me from my phone.
That's such a good example. And it's something that, like, so many people can relate to, right? But here's where it gets super interesting. Sher's point is that these dreams, even if they seem kind of small, they actually point to bigger unmet needs that we have.
Okay.
So that Italian dream, it might be a longing for adventure, for connection, maybe even just like a break from the everyday grind. What do you think's at the heart of your Italian dream?
Wow. Honestly, you just like blew my mind. Because it's true. It's not about like memorizing verbs. It's about the feeling of, you know, immersing myself in a different culture, the excitement of actually connecting with people in a new way.
And that's it. You uncover the why, and suddenly you start seeing all these possibilities you never even considered before.
Wow.
But of course, unearthing the dreams is just the first step, right? We've also got to face those dream crushers, those voices that tell us it's too late or we're not good enough. You know what I'm talking about.
Ugh, the worst. They're like those inflatable tube men at car dealerships.
Yes.
All flailing arms and like loud noises, don't they though?
Yeah.
That they always seem to know exactly when to like pop up and totally kill the mood.
They really do. It's like they can smell our doubt, right? But the thing is, Sure says they're all about intimidation, not like actual reality. Like
Okay.
those inflatable tube men, yeah.
Yeah.
Loud, distracting, but at the end of the day, totally harmless.
Okay, that actually helps a little bit. But how do we actually like deflate them? Asking for a friend
Yeah.
who might be a little freaked out about failing Italian 101.
That is where Sher's baby steps idea comes in. It's honestly brilliant.
Okay.
She's all about taking those goals that seem impossible, right? And
Uh-huh.
and breaking them down into these like totally doable little chunks. Remember how we were talking about our brains getting those little dopamine hits from those small wins?
Oh yeah, it's like leveling up in a video game.
Yes.
Every time you level up, it's like you get that little burst of motivation to keep going.
Exactly. So instead of freaking yourself out about becoming like fluent overnight, what if you just listened to one Italian song every day
Okay.
or learned one new vocab word?
See, that feels a lot less scary than like cracking open my old textbook. And I bet those little wins would add up,
Oh,
right?
for sure. It's the difference between trying to like climb Mount Everest all in one go or, taking your time to enjoy the view along the way.
Right.
She also talks about this thing called the Zeigarnik effect. It's basically our brains are wired to remember tasks we haven't finished yet,
Okay.
which makes us want to go back and like actually do them. So by breaking down your Italian dream into those smaller steps, you're kind of like tricking your brain into staying motivated.
Whoa, that's kind of sneaky.
Yeah.
I like it. So I'm taking baby steps. I'm feeling good about those small wins. Is there anything else I can do to like really make sure I stick with it this time?
You are so in sync with this because Cher's a huge fan of building a dream team. But before you picture like a whole boardroom of like Executives in suits. Just remember, it can be literally anyone who supports your goals, a friend, someone in your family, even like an online community.
No, it's like a cheering section for my Italian journey.
Yes.
Because let's be real, accountability is way more fun if there are pom-poms involved.
100%. Having that support system, even if it's just one person, can make such a difference.
Right.
Sure talks about how, when you share experiences, it like boosts the joy and it makes those tough parts feel easier to handle.
Oh, that's so true. I used to like totally dread going for runs until I found a running buddy who was just as, let's say, enthusiastic as I was.
Yeah.
And then suddenly those early mornings felt less like torture and more like, an adventure.
And that is the magic, right?
Yeah.
It changes the story from me against the world to we're in this together. But even with a good support system, there's still that one dream crusher we haven't tackled, the fear of failing.
Oh, you mean the one that's like constantly replaying all my past language learning disasters on a loop?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's like got me in a chokehold. But I thought we were supposed to be friends with failure, which still seems a little, I don't know, like out there.
I totally hear you. But what if, instead of being scared of messing up, we thought of it more as a guide,
Okay.
like something that gives us feedback? Think about when you were learning to ride a bike. You wouldn't hop on and just like magically become a pro, right?
Right.
Every time you wobble, every time you fall, it teaches you something about balance, and maybe the importance of a helmet.
Okay, that does make me feel a lot better about my, shall we say, interesting attempts at parallel parking. It's all just part of learning, right?
Precisely. And even those big time fails, the ones that make you want to chuck your bike or your Italian textbook into a ditch, they teach us the best lessons. Sure talks about how tons of successful people, like entrepreneurs, artists, even scientists, they say their breakthroughs came from those failures. They weren't afraid to experiment, to try things nobody else was doing, to like fall flat on their faces and then learn from it.
So it's not about like running away from failure. It's about like changing how we see it.
Exactly. It's about like accepting those bumps in the road as part of the journey. Which, brings us to this other important point Show makes. Finding the joy in the process, not just getting to the finish line.
So we're not like just chasing after some finish line, right?
Yeah.
It's more about like really enjoying those aha moments along the way.
Totally. Think of it this way. Would you rather scarf down an amazing meal just so you can say you finished it? Or would you rather, really savor each bite, like enjoy the flavors, maybe have a glass of wine and good conversation?
Okay, now I'm hungry. But I get what you're saying. It's about like the whole experience, not just rushing to get to the end.
Exactly. And when you start focusing on the process, that's when things get really exciting. You're constantly learning, you're pushing yourself. That's where the good stuff happens. Sure talks about how, like, even the most ordinary things can become these opportunities for, joy and discovering new things about yourself.
So how do we actually do that? Because like, let's be real, life's not always a picnic.
Right.
Sometimes it's, traffic jams and piles of laundry.
That is where those practical tools that Sure talks about come in.
Okay.
She's all about like taking those dreams out of your head and actually, like making them real. Things like vision boards, journaling, even those goal setting worksheets.
I've got to be honest, I've never been big on vision boards. They always seemed, I don't know, a little cheesy.
I get it. But there's actually a lot to them, psychologically speaking. When you make like a visual representation of your goal,
Yeah.
you're basically training your brain to be on the lookout for things that'll help you achieve it, like sending your subconscious mind on a scavenger hunt. Plus, it can be really motivating to have something you can actually look at to remind yourself of what you're working toward.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about those goal setting worksheets? I'm not gonna lie, I do love a good list.
Lists are the best. And when we're talking about going after dreams, having a clear plan can be the difference between just like thinking about it and actually making it happen.
Right.
Sure's got some really great ways to, break those huge goals down into baby steps, which we know is super important.
So it's about taking everything we're learning from Dream On and actually using it, right?
Yes. It's about turning those what if moments into I'm doing it moments. And remember, it is never too late to get started.
Right.
Sure says it beautifully. The best time to plant a tree might have been 20 years ago, but the next best time is, right now.
I love that. It's a good reminder that we can create the lives we want, just like one step at a time.
And that is the really cool part about all this whole journey of unearthing and chasing after our dreams. It's not about, this perfect outcome. It's about like really experiencing life, like
Yeah.
with all your heart in it. It's about figuring out what truly excites you, what gives you that spark, and then actually having the guts to go after it.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Dream On,
Well,
what about you? What dream is calling your name, and what's one small thing you can do today to, like, dust it off?
maybe it's signing up for that Italian class or picking up a paintbrush, or maybe it's just like giving yourself 5 minutes to daydream about the possibilities,
Yeah.
because sometimes all it takes is that one tiny action to start an amazing adventure.